The No Kings protests are more than just a response to one day's events. They are a loud, unified declaration about the state of democracy in America. As I reflect on what unfolded across the country on June 14th, I find myself struck by both the scale of the movement and the symbolism it carries. This wasn't just about opposing a military parade or challenging a single administration. It was about standing up for principles that form the bedrock of our nation: accountability, shared power, and the belief that no leader is above the people. What's remarkable is the sheer breadth of participation. Protests in 50 states sent a clear message. This wasn't limited to one party, one ideology, or one corner of the country. From large cities like Los Angeles to smaller communities in Middle America, people came together with a shared purpose. The creative ways protesters expressed their message also stood out. Images of the No King formation on San Francisco's beaches became an emblem of resistance and unity. These moments remind us that protests are not just about anger. They are about hope, creativity, and the power of collective action.
I'm a daughter of immigrants, and I'm proud of my parents and their sacrifice and what they did to give me a better life. And I know thousands of others just like me are here protesting and speaking up for their parents, and that's what I'm doing.
You know, if we're not speaking up, we're complicit. And
what's going on is a joke in Washington right now. The man is blatantly trying to take over our country. It's an authoritarian takeover.
After the scapegoating of the supposed bad guys, after stealing our money, our tax money for bull, excuse my French, the next step is tyranny.
Seeing families being torn apart, it's not right. You know, it shouldn't be happening in this country. These people helped build this nation, and it hurts me inside to see it.
Stop the raids!
It's terrible. It's terrible. It really makes me feel sick. It's depressing. You know, how can I put it? It's just something that shouldn't be happening at all.
I'm an activist from Russia. I spent 2 years in jail because I was there under a political criminal case for a peaceful protest, and it started to feel a lot like that.
It's very powerful. I'm kind of shaking inside because I fear that's what we're moving towards, and I'm born and raised here. I am the granddaughter of Mexican immigrants. I'm scared, but I won't be scared into silence.
At the same time, the incidents of violence and clashes show how fraught this moment is. Tear gas in Los Angeles, a shooting in Salt Lake City. These are painful reminders of the challenges we face in expressing dissent peacefully. They also underline the stakes. When democracy feels threatened, emotions run high, and the potential for conflict grows. What strikes me most is the clarity of the movement's message. No Kings is not just a slogan, it's a powerful statement about the kind of leadership this country wants and needs. It's a rejection of authoritarian tendencies and a call to protect the values that have kept our democracy alive for centuries. The real test, however, lies ahead. Will the energy from these protests translate into action, into policy changes, civic engagement, and renewed commitment to democratic norms? Or will it fade, leaving us with only memories of powerful moments and unresolved tensions? For me, the No Kings movement is a reminder that democracy isn't something we inherit. It's something we fight for, protect, and nurture every day. And right now, millions of Americans are showing that they're ready to do just that. The recent court ruling in the feud between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom is a pivotal moment for American democracy. The decision, which declared Trump's federalization of the California National Guard illegal, reaffirms the importance of checks and balances in our system of government. This ruling isn't just about constitutional technicalities. It's a bold statement that no president, regardless of their intentions or rhetoric, is above the law. By blocking Trump's overreach, the court has upheld the 10th Amendment, preserving the delicate balance between federal and state power. A turning point for federalism. Governor Newsom's argument that Trump's actions were authoritarian struck a chord with many who worry about the erosion of state autonomy. The court's decision validates Newsom's stance and sets an important precedent. The federal government cannot simply bypass state authority without meeting strict legal standards. However, the fight isn't over. A temporary block on the ruling by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals means the California National Guard remains under federal control for now. This delay raises the stakes, as the upcoming appeal could have long-term implications for federalism and the limits of executive power.
We are instead protesting the administration's authoritarian actions. We didn't want to stand in front of the military parade, but instead have a split screen showing what the president is wasting taxpayer dollars on here in Washington and what everyone everywhere else in the country is calling for, an America they can believe in, a democracy they trust.
Why this matters? This ruling goes beyond the Trump-Newsom feud. It's about the principles that define our democracy. Rule of law. Even the president must operate within constitutional boundaries. Separation of powers. The federal government cannot arbitrarily override state authority. Civil liberties. Deploying the military domestically risks infringing on fundamental rights. Looking ahead. The outcome of this legal battle will have far-reaching consequences. If the courts ultimately uphold the decision, it will strengthen protections against federal overreach and reaffirm the role of states in safeguarding democracy. If not, it could embolden future administrations to test the boundaries of their authority, potentially at the expense of individual freedoms. For now, this ruling is a reminder of the resilience of our democratic institutions. It demonstrates that the judiciary remains a critical check on executive power, even in the face of intense political conflict. Regardless of where one stands politically, this moment highlights the importance of vigilance in defending the principles that keep our democracy strong.
Democracy itself is under attack.
He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines. These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic law enforcement. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces, not in LA, not in California, not anywhere.
He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. I think his primary crime is running for governor, because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. I don't want a civil war. A civil war would happen if you left it to people like him. And I liked him. You know, I always got along with him. Never had a problem with him. But he's grossly incompetent. Cars burning all over the place, people rioting. And by the way, we stopped it. We were able to make it much better. But it still looked pretty bad. And in watching clips last night, people were saying this is really a big problem. And until we went in, if we didn't do the job, that place would be burning down just like the houses burned down.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have an update here as we're watching this back and forth between Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom, where Trump is trying to allow the National Guard and the Marines to stay in place here in Los Angeles, where I'm coming to you from, and Gavin Newsom is suing. Now, he was granted a temporary restraining order at the trial court. That was then stayed, meaning blocked temporarily in the appeals court. Donald Trump is hailing this as a win and using it to justify him being able to send the National Guard, being able to send U.S. troops into American cities. Is this a win for Donald Trump as he's claiming?
No, because it's what's called an administrative stay. In other words, we're just going to temporarily pause things without saying anything about the merits of the ruling by Judge Breyer. And the ruling by Judge Breyer could not have been clearer or more definitive. He said Donald Trump violated the federal law, Donald Trump violated the Constitution, and Donald Trump must relinquish control of the California National Guard, return it to Governor Gavin Newsom, quote, forthwith, translating that from legalese to English, right the F now. However, we've seen this happen over and over again, Brian, when there's this enormously consequential ruling handed down by a trial court judge, the Court of Appeals will grant what's called an administrative stay. Just put a temporary pause that has nothing to do and is not a criticism of Judge Breyer's opinion, while the parties can submit some briefs very quickly, and the appeals court, is requiring supplemental briefs to be filed on the 15th and the 16th of June, and then they're going to have the oral argument on the 17th, on Tuesday. So we're probably going to get an opinion from the Court of Appeals very quickly. But, Brian, this is decidedly not a substantive win of any kind for Donald Trump.